Hello everyone. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone's had a great weekend. So it's been a minute. It's been a long minute. I've pretty much been MIA for a good chunk of 2023, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a great break. I really enjoyed myself. The main reason why I was gone for a good portion is due to lack of inspiration. Like, all of the comic book news and media that came out, majority of it from last year that I saw, was pretty piss poor to downright terrible. And I had no desire to make a video about it. Like, you know me, I love a good rant. And I didn't even have the energy to do that because it's just the same old, same old. I'm tired of receiving mediocre to piss poor products from these companies to the point where I have grown a bit of apathy, towards Marvel and DC as far as the movie goes. I want the DCU to do well, but I am pretty indifferent at this point. I want the MCU to get back on its feet, but I'm pretty indifferent at this point because they just keep proving to not understand what the problem is, and they don't go about ways of fixing what the obvious problem is with these products. Like, it's just insane. We had news come out recently with the Fantastic Four casting and trailers, and I was like, it just seems like a bait and switch. That was the first thought that came to my mind. I did watch the trailers and I saw the casting and everything, and I'll probably talk about it like in a live stream. I just don't want to dedicate a video to it because it feels like the same old from Marvel specifically, bait and switch. And then DC, we're getting all this news about Superman Legacy in particular, and I'm very worried about that film. Very, very worried. I'm very worried on the DCU in totality, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like, even animated stuff, just outside of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, animated stuff didn't really hit for me. Usually DC, I'm well fed. Not necessarily last year. I don't know what it was. Last year was just a disastrous year, I feel like, for both Marvel and DC, but yikes. Today, as you can tell, maybe not from my TV on the game that's paused. I don't know why I'm pointing this way. I love myself. Okay, so we're talking about Spider-Man 2 today. I am super, super excited. I saved up like crazy and I was able to get the PS5 and I got the game. I played through it. When I made my community post, I had finished the story mode like that night. And like I said in my community post, it had a lot of potential, but honestly, the story mode, the game itself, it was a bit of a letdown. Don't get me wrong, I think it's still pretty fun to play. It definitely has replay value compared to Miles Morales' own game. No. But there are many aspects within this game, what the characters, the story mode, that they just could have done better with. And aspects of it felt rushed. I felt like some other aspects were lazy, and we're going to talk about all of that. Hopefully this won't be like too long a video, but I have a lot of footage. I have a lot of screenshots because that PS5 quality is just so beautiful, and I'm like, we have to include it, and hopefully YouTube will let me include it. So we're going to go by characters first. I think that's the best way to go about it, and then in that I'll definitely talk about the story mode, and then after that's done, we'll just talk about the story mode as a whole, gameplay, and some of the side quests, because obviously it's been a while since I made my community post, and I have definitely tackled some of the side quests, so I have some opinions about that, and we'll talk about that. But the first person I want to start with is Miles Morales. And as I say in the clip that you're about to watch, Miles Morales is a huge outlier in this game for me. I have had an issue with Insomniac's Miles for a while now, and this game did nothing but highlight my issues with Miles Morales in the Insomniac verse. So I talk about it in this clip that you're about to see. I semi-apologize because the mic quality is from the PS5 controller, so it's not the best, but also it is what it is because it came to the dome while I was playing, so I figured, it's there, let's use it. So that's what we're about to see. So have a listen and enjoy. I don't know why I'm pointing this way when the transition's gonna be this way. So enjoy. Hello, hello. We are swinging around as Miles Morales. So I figured while we're doing so, we can talk about him as far as this game goes and really in general because I've always felt that the Miles Morales from the Insomniac verse has been a huge letdown, really from the beginning, but it was definitely evident in his own game and this game, right? He's just never felt like a real person, so it's very hard to connect with him, and he's also fairly boring because he feels like the poster child for do the right thing, if you get what I'm saying, and I'll explain further, of course. But it amazes me that in the time that these games have come out, we've had two Miles Morales Spider-Man flicks that have shit the bed all over whatever writing team is behind Miles Morales in these games. Like, those films not only are phenomenal in my opinion, but they showcase Miles having a damn personality, having stakes, having trials and tribulations as a hero, willing to take that risk or make mistakes, go the extra mile, things that you are supposed to see within every hero, especially one who's trying to fill big shoes and also carve out his own path as Spider-Man, right? Miles in the Sony films, he's very witty, he's intelligent, he can be a bit impulsive, he's got a big heart. Like, all of that bleed through the screen, whether it be through the dialogue or his actions, the animation driving these actions, whatever it may be, it's showcased on screen, and you understand who Miles is and why he makes the decisions that he makes. I mean, you can even see it in his damn suit. You know what I mean? And it's insane that you look at that film or those sets of films and then you come to this game and it's like looking at a piece of cardboard with locks. It is, and I hate to say that, I really do, because I wanted better for this Miles Morales, but he just doesn't do it for me. Let me do this little slingshot real quick. Bada bing, bada boom. Where do I even start with Miles? Because honestly, he feels like one of the biggest outliers in this game, because I feel like, as far as the story mode goes, he should not have been included. The way that they put him in felt very tacked on and forced, and ultimately it took away from some of the more emotional moments in the story. Like, especially with the symbiote arc, why would you include Miles Morales? Why would you include him when it is clear as day that the symbiote arc is very personal and directly tied to Peter in every sense? Miles literally is the only one of the main group, as far as Mary Jane, Peter, Harry, and him. He's the only one who was not infected with the symbiote. So already you've removed any sort of mild attachment he could have had to the story. You've removed any sort of arc that he could have gone through while being infected with the symbiote, right? You've removed that. So why is he here? Like, the fact that you have him fighting in the final battle with Venom is a joke in itself. Because there's no reason why he should be fighting Venom at all, especially in the final battle in the Emily May Foundation building, which is so sentimental and important to both Peter and Harry, which was showcased throughout the story. But you have Miles Morales fighting Venom and not Peter in the final two battles. That's insane. And yes, you have to fight Venom 4 times. Lovely boss fights. But it just like, it's clear even through the dialogue, through the piss poor dialogue. He has nothing of substance to say to Harry other than, it's not you, it's the symbiote, I can help you. Which, after you've heard that about, 4 to 5 times and different variations, it gets old fairly quickly. Despite all of that, like I said, Miles Morales in the Insomniac verse really has no flaws. Like, there is no type of trial and tribulation that he has to go through as Spider-Man, even as simple as keeping it from your friends. Of course, all of his friends know. Even Haley, who he just met, knows that he's Spider-Man. So there's no conflict with that, right? And I understand you might not want to repeat
the story of, the loved one not knowing, so it creates conflict within the relationship. I understand that. I get that. However, it was needed. It was needed because Miles literally has nothing going on. He has no personality. You look at his friendships and relationships, right? Like, you look at him and his mom. That's the only relationship where I see a twinge of like something with Miles. Like, there's something there. But even with Genki, right? Genki is literally the guy in the chair. He is only there to service Miles and his heroism and push his story forward. There's nothing going on with Genki. It's the same issue that I have with Ned from the MCU, right? It's the same thing. Nothing going for him. They tried to drop a line where I'm sorry, not Ned, where Genki has a girlfriend. And I'm like, are you serious? You dropped no type of dialogue throughout the entire story mode to even suggest that Genki was having these feelings for this girl and he was hiding it from Miles for whatever reason. Because it comes out, when he tells Miles that he was keeping it from him. Why? Why would you keep it from him? It's nothing substantial. It's nothing that gets explored. You see what I'm saying? And it's like him and Haley, I think they're cute. I think they're cute as hell. But there's nothing there. And you look at his game, his own solo game, and you could tell they did not know what to do with him. They did not know how to give him a compelling personal story and journey that did not involve his father's death, because that is the only thing Miles has going for him. That is the emotional core of his character, is the fact that his father died. And I didn't say this on the channel, but this is the issue I had with Monica Rambeau. You cannot make the emotional core of someone's character their entire personality and being. You can't do that and then expect the audience members to be invested in what's going on with them. That's not how this works. Literally, for the past 3 games, they have been hitting on the fact that Miles lost his dad. There's nothing else. And this was the time for you to explore that with Miles. I mean, golly, if you're going to showcase him in this game, he's going to be second chair, right? Then make him second chair. Make us explore him. Explore the fact that he has this immense pressure to carry on, the job of being Spider-Man because Peter's taking a break. Don't summarize it in a piece of dialogue. Have us explore Miles's mind, figure out what he's going through. We don't get any of that. And it's like literally nothing from his game carried over into Spider-Man 2. The fact that he had to kill his best friend in the first game, which that was a shallow relationship as it was, but he held his best friend as she exploded in his arms and died, right? And you're telling me that had no effect on him? That had no effect on his friendships? Like, you would think he would be hesitant on even trying to start a relationship with Haley because of what happened with Finn. But no, that doesn't come up at all. It's like these are the building blocks that are missing with Miles because they want him to be so damn perfect. And it's very frustrating. Like, you have him in this story mode, and the only thing that he does, he saves Peter's ass, and the only thing of somewhat substance that he has going for him is the fact that he wants revenge, against Negative Man for what he did to his dad. And that's the only thing that could possibly connect to, both Peter and him, because Negative Man was the main guy from the first game, right? And you could have had a moment where Peter really sits down and has a conversation with him on like, you really don't want to do this, you don't want to go down this path, it's not going to end well, trust me, right? And then maybe we could have had a cutscene where Peter took it too far, and that could tap into Peter's story as well. Like, you could do so much, and none of that happened. This was supposed to be the mentor-mentee relationship, and it didn't happen. And it was so disappointing to play as Miles, and he is literally just there to save Peter and kind of slightly go through a revenge arc, which doesn't go anywhere because you never feel like Miles is going to take the wrong step. You never feel like he's going to go too far the way Peter did. There are no stakes with him. And it's just the issue that I have with a lot of the writing for characters of today, because they are flawless, and that's not interesting. I don't know what it's going to take for these people to realize that that's not interesting at all. I promise you. He's just so freaking nice, and it's like there's no edge to him at all, and I'm just not a fan of it personally. So, final thoughts. I think Miles should have been completely left out of the story mode. They could have found a way to maybe rope him in with Craven, but the way in which they did it, all it did was lead back to Negative Man, and the whole thing was really servicing Negative Man, because he was the one going through a redemption arc. And Miles, being like, okay, I don't want to take revenge on you. All of that literally happens during a boss battle, during the shitty ass dialogue in the boss battle between Miles and Negative Man, where he has to fight Negative Man, I think 3 to 4 times. I know for a fact 3 times. I know that for a fact because that was the single most frustrating part of the entire game, the boss fights, and that one in particular, because I almost quit the game. But yeah, I want better for Miles. I want the writing to be better. And I really hope that we're going to get something, because as it stands, he is just utterly boring, and he did not need to be included in this game. And just one final point, and this could be on me, but when they were advertising this game, right, it felt like they were going to do co-op. With Miles being at the forefront, you could have done so many things with that. And I feel like if you weren't really going to commit to that, especially with what we got, he shouldn't have been included. Point blank, period. But that's all I have to say on Miles. I think we're going to talk about Peter next. I wanted to get him out the way because he wasn't the most frustrating aspect of the game, but like I said, he was just a big outlier, and it didn't make sense for him to be here. But yeah, that's it, and let's keep going.
So that's my little tidbit on Miles. I just feel at the end of the day, they squandered any opportunity that they had with him. And it really is a part of a larger problem with the character, because from my viewpoint, he doesn't have anything of his own to grasp onto. I need the writers to be a little more creative. Like, not to the point where you're giving him a lightsaber, but maybe we can expand his rogues gallery a bit, because from my viewpoint, all he really has is the Prowler. And, I'm sure he may have 1 or 2 more in the books, or maybe several more. I was never personally drawn to read more about Miles Morales, but I feel like the Insomniac verse surely doesn't know that he has a bigger rogues gallery, because I feel like that would have been the time to introduce that to us who may not know. Because even the Prowler in Miles's own game was not done very well. Like, it was very lackluster, the whole reveal, compared to that of the movie. But I'm not even going to compare it to the movie. Standing on its own, it was so lackluster. And the fact that his uncle already knew he was Spider-Man with, like, boom, 1, 2, like, really? It just, the whole thing fell flat. All of the relationships are surface level. So when you're trying to have this reveal that the Prowler's heel, it's Miles's uncle, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And if you're gonna pull from Peter's rogues gallery, you don't pull from Venom, you don't pull from Craven. Like, they're kind of not, Craven is not as deep, but there is a direct connection to Peter, because he is him, and they hate this man or deeply respect him and his strength, and they want to go after him. So you don't use those villains. And it's like the way that they do it, it's so forced and awkward, as I said. And this is a running theme with another character that we're going to talk about, but it's not going to be right now, because we're going to talk about my favorite, Peter Parker. And I wrote notes, so let's pull that out. Peter, darling. Unfortunately for me, Peter felt like an afterthought in his own game, which is very vexing, because why bring in Venom? Why bring in Craven in the symbiote arc if you weren't going to give it the necessary care and attention that it deserves when it comes to Peter, and really Peter alone? Because if you're going to bring in the symbiote arc, I do not want that and Peter's personal journey within that being railroaded by Miles Morales and his arc with Negative Man, which is not nearly as interesting. Sorry, I didn't sign up for that. I don't think most people signed up for that. It's bad enough Peter is not a highlight or the focus of the symbiote arc, despite how it personally connects to him, and even Mary Jane to an extent, because Harry's the one who becomes Venom this time around. She's not really, well, actually, I take that back. She is kind of highlighted better than Peter, honestly, and we'll talk about that, right? But he's not highlighted because they're too busy pushing forth Miles, and we don't care about him in this arc. I'm so sorry, we don't care. But because of that, other things get lost in the fray, like Peter's mental health, right? It's clear, from the beginning of the game where he's hesitant to give away Aunt May stuff because it's tied to so much grief and fallout from the first game and the decisions that he made surrounding that. And none of that is really touched on as far as how he's really feeling, because personally I feel like from the last game, the first game, I felt that Peter, for a second, really regretted letting Aunt May die. And I wish we would have had time to really explore that. I wish we would have had time to touch on the fact that Peter was obviously masking his pain through his time as Spider-Man, which most heroes do. Right? Most heroes do it. It's not healthy, but they do it. So, you have a clear-cut story arc right there. You have a means to explore that and bring it to a conclusion in which Peter learns not only to, not mask your pain through Spider-Man, because the suit cannot save you all the time. He doesn't learn that. He doesn't learn that he can lean on the people around him, i.e. Mary Jane, Harry, Miles. Like, he doesn't really learn that. He doesn't really reflect on that, because all of this is used, as I said, to bolster Miles and his arc. So what do I mean by that? There is a mission within the game, and it comes towards the end of the Black Suit era, right? Miles and Negative Man go into his subconscious, okay? They go into Peter's subconscious to pull him out and save him and da-da-da-da. The most that they do with it is explore Peter's bedroom. Aunt May drops some dialogue, and that's it. That's it. And then they pull Peter out. He's saved. He thanks Miles. And the most Peter does to reflect on what happened during the Black Suit era, he just apologizes to everyone for being a dick. That's it. And for me, that's not enough. You can't drop nuggets of Peter's grief and trauma and all that he's dealing with as far as the villains that he's put away in the raft, and if he was too hard on them or he wasn't hard enough, whatever the case may be, you can't drop nuggets of that and then not explore it. Scorpion literally dies and there's like nothing from Peter. Vulture dies and it's summed up in one piece of dialogue from Peter. Like, Peter is not one to take a life, no matter what these people have done. And the fact that Kraven did it so easily, that should haunt Peter. And all of this happened before the Black Suit era, and it wasn't touched upon. Like, it makes Peter feel hollow and generic, and it doesn't help that his redesign is hollow and generic, because when I look at Peter, the remastered Peter, he looks like Tom Holland's first cousin. And that's not to say Tom Holland looks like generic or whatever. It just, of all the designs, why would you pick this one? Why not stick with what you started with in the PS4 version and just make minor tweaks to make him more mature, like you did with Mary Jane Watson? No, you completely remodel his face. So you've automatically broken the immersion, at least for me, and I can't take him seriously. Like, Yuri Lowenthal is putting his all. He is putting his damnness into this game. And for me, I can't fully enjoy the dialogue and his performance because I have to look at this face that doesn't match how he sounds. So it's crazy. Like, they just failed with Peter in this game. And I'm sad. It just makes me sad because, like, why? Why? But that's all from my notes. We're gonna go to good old MJ because I'm tired of Peter making me sad. So let's talk about MJ. Mary Jane Watson. I will start by saying her redesign, lovely. I love her new design. I feel like she looks way more mature. She looks like time has actually passed from the first game and the graphics have severely, improved. Her face is great. I love the hair. I love the haircut. It fits the frame of her face. I felt like that ponytail was holding her back real. Obviously, it's a lot more than just the ponytail, but visually, she looks great. I think the clothes could use some work because it just doesn't really fit her. It fits a Lois Lane knockoff, which is unfortunately, what we have in front of us, but it just doesn't fit Mary Jane Watson. So I think that could use some tweaking, but otherwise it's fine. I also love how her personality kind of shined through a little bit more in this game than more so the first game, right? I think in the first game she was more so annoying and impulsive, and it kind of directly led into her solo missions, which was just very for me personally, I was like, girl, are you serious? But in this game, I feel like yes, she's still impulsive and we still get those solo missions, but it's a lot more tolerable. She's also definitely confident. She commands presence when she walks in a room. She is sly. She can, like I said, she can think on her feet. All of this stuff is great. She's driven. I love it. What I don't love is that these attributes yet again align with Mary Jane being a reporter instead of her initial career aspirations of being a part of the arts, whether that be being an actress on stage in front of a camera or being a model. For some reason, that aspect of Mary Jane has been completely abandoned. I don't know why that is. It's really insane, right? But I'll tell you one thing, we don't want to see her as a reporter. Like, that's not the direction you need to take with her character. I've just never been a fan of that with the Insomniac verse, because we're in a scenario yet again where you feel the need to force her upon us. Why are you forcing Mary Jane Watson upon us? Miles, I understand. You're trying to break him in, okay? I get it, all right? You're not doing it very well, but you're trying. Mary Jane Watson, that name alone holds so much reverence, and she is such a staple in Spider-Man and Spider-Man lore. Why do you feel the need to push her upon us like this, to the point where these solo missions that you're having us play with her, she's put in these unrealistic scenarios, and it's so aggravating, and it's like, I don't even want to do this. Why is she fighting off hunters and symbiote people with a mere little taser gun like in the first game? Why is she fighting a brute symbiotic being by herself? Answer me that. Why? Why? When I'm fighting for my life as Miles or Peter, I'm fighting for my life going against the hunters and later the symbiote people.
Yeah, you better build my damn focus bar. It's pissing me off right now. Just stay with me. I do. Because one hit, I'm done. I'm out. Oh my god, I pressed the wrong button and I'm done.
But Mary Jane, she does a little bobbing and weaving, one little taser, one little sonic boom, and they're done. It's like, are you for real? Are you for real? Seriously. Like, we get a Lois Lane knockoff, and this is what we get. And then it's like, her personal journey really boils down to her wanting to get an article published in the Bugle. Like, this is not interesting. And to the point, like, at the end of the game, she literally starts a podcast. Like, girl, ain't no way. Like, ain't no way. I just couldn't believe.
Over the last half hour, I've talked about how these events have changed me.
Oh my god, is she starting a podcast?
What about you? In this ongoing series, I will be talking with people throughout the city, exploring our new behaviors.
Oh my god.
New thoughts and feelings. I hope you'll join me on this journey. This has been Mary Jane Watson, and you're listening to The New Normal.
Oh, what a joke. gotta be fucking kidding me.
Oh, so frustrating. But you know what wasn't frustrating outside of all that? Her time as Scream. You know, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Peter that, you know, she was kind of explored, and I felt like they did it better than Peter, because when she was Scream and Peter was fighting her, I liked her dialogue, because for once we kind of got some insight into her perspective on the relationship between her and Peter, and the power dynamic, and how she feels undervalued and underappreciated, which I'm sure those last two things I said, that probably led to them breaking up in the first game. I'm sure that was one of the core reasons. Not really highlighted on, but that's just how I feel personally, right? I think of everyone infected with the symbiote, they kind of handled MJ the best, because she really put her feelings out there. She read Peter for filth. Like, she basically called him a bum, and it was like, oh my God. Like, I was like kind of shook. But her feelings were raw, and they were from in here. And Peter he didn't know what to do. Like, he was just like, what? And I felt like, you know, with Peter, it wasn't necessarily the same thing. Even with Harry, I don't think it was the same thing, because they didn't spend enough time with him and really building that bond between him and MJ, or him and Peter. So it didn't work in the way that it did with MJ, in my opinion. Let me see. Okay. Last thing. I think while MJ was Scream, they should have tapped into her career goals and aspirations more, and how maybe she felt like she's fallen short on what she's been, you know, going for. Like, we're learning that she wants to publish this article to the Bugle. She wants to be taken seriously. And when she Scream, it doesn't really feel like that's at the forefront, the fact that she kind of wants to be taken seriously with her work. It kind of more so ties to Peter, and how she wants Peter to take her seriously, but it isn't tied to her personally, and like wanting to be taken seriously in her industry that she's a part of. So I think that should have been tapped into a little bit more. And I think it definitely would have hit more if she were a pursuant of the arts, like I know her to be, because how many artists do we know who deal with rejection on a daily basis, who feel, you know, like they've fallen so far off their goals? I deal with that. So many other artists deal with that. So I just think it would have hit a lot better if she were a pursuant of the arts, because what they gave us, it just yeah, the main thing is just her being a Lois Lane knockoff. I'm way good off that. But otherwise, that's it for MJ. You know, the next section, we're gonna talk about things that I liked and loved, and the story mode as a whole, because I did like some stuff in this game. I promise. But here we go. All right, lovely people, let me talk about the things that I personally liked and really enjoyed while playing this game. First up, playing as Venom. Oh my God, I was playing this and my dad was watching, and then we got to the part where, you know, the POV switched, and you know, he just became Venom. The POV switched, and he's trying to break out of Oscorp, and he's just mauling dudes left and right. When it switched and it was like, yeah, like play as him, I was like, no way. My dad and I were like, yo, this is cool. Like, what a twist. I loved it. You know, I didn't think they were going to do this. I wish we would have gotten this for Kraven, because Kraven was moving and grooving during his boss fight. Annoyingly so. But he was doing it. And like, I would have, you know, liked to play him. Maybe when he killed Vulture or Scorpion, like, we could have been there for that. The same way we play Venom and it leads to him killing Kraven, because we fight Kraven. Like, the whole thing was just so cool. I felt like his moves were pretty limited, but he had just became Venom, so of course his skill set isn't the best. But I do wish we had like more moves to work with as Venom. But it was fun. It was super fun, just kind of like throwing Oscorp guys everywhere. I was just like, ah, it was great. The next is the suits, right? So the suits are great. I love the suits. I love Peter's suits. You know, we We get the OG black suit, and they even have the color scheme from the 90s Fox show. When I tell you he looks so beautiful, like he looks so beautiful. He just looks so great. Of course, they have the Iron Spider, the suit from the Tobey Maguire films, the Andrew Garfield films, the MCU suits, and they have some other ones which kind of look goofy, but it's funny. Like, I recently unlocked a Craven looking one from finishing the Craven side quest, which that was kind of underwhelming, but I'll talk about that. The suit was like goofy. I don't know. I was just like, oh, okay. But it's great. I think my favorite one is the Scarlet Spider, the one with the hood, and the one without the hood. Those two are amongst my favorite. I wish the Cyborg suit were in there. Now, I haven't unlocked all the suits yet. I have a couple more to go, so maybe they're in there. But the Cyborg suit is amongst my favorite from the first game. Let's see. And of course the black suit. I absolutely love that. Miles. So Miles, I was very intrigued by what they were going to give us, because like I said, you know, Miles doesn't have a lot to call his own, and his suits are kind of one of them. We're talking about suits, and I almost forgot the atrocity that was the Miles original from the end of the story mode.
Please. It's really the colors, because I feel like the overall design is not bad at all. It's just the colors. Like, who thought this Colgate toothpaste blue was a good idea mixed with like black and white and like a light gray for the mask? Like, why not make it black? And then you have a thing cut out for his hair, which is only to showcase that he's black. That's the only reason. And for God's sakes, can we get rid of that hairstyle, please? Thank you. Okay.
Like literally I unlocked one where he was wearing Wolverine's helmet, and it's a thing from the books. I looked it up. I was like, oh, why? I was like, no way. Like, no way.
Ain't no way, bruh. Like, they said, okay, every Marvel hero, somehow we're gonna incorporate it in Miles's costume one way or another. Bruh, there's just no way. Like, does he have... Oh! Okay.
His suits were like very, very goofy, but some of them I really liked. His 10th anniversary suit, I love the design for that. I had to choose a different color because I felt like the way that they did the pink, I wasn't really a fan of that. That one's my favorite. This one I unlocked that is heavily inspired by Spawn. I'm gonna put pictures here. I really like that one. Of course, his streetwear, his Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse suits. Oh, and Peter has the Noir suit. All of those are great. I just love the suits. They're great. It's so fun. So fun. And then next is the gadgets. So I really like the gadgets in this game. I more so like the layout. I think it's much better than like the first game, because the first game it kind of puts you in suspended animation, and then you have to like move your cursor to choose, and sometimes it can be a lot if you're under pressure. So I like in this game, you know, you have a separate thing, R1, you press the button, you use the gadget. For Spider-Man in particular, I miss some of his old gadgets. I miss the trip line, the impact web, and the web ball. More so the impact web and the trip line. When I tell you in stealth missions, these two things, man, they used to help me out like nobody's business. I absolutely miss those for sure. Miles, his gadgets, or I guess like his power set, it's fine. I didn't even speak on Peter's power set. His power set's fine. Like the symbiote stuff is fine. But Miles, his electricity stuff is far more fun to use than his Venom stuff. Like, for sure. The only thing, L1X, those abilities, they're tough. Like, if you go on a symbiote mission, you can't really use those because the symbiotes aren't going to jump in the air with you if you do the Venom jump. If you do the one with electricity where he has to punch you to lift you up in the air, it's hard to do that one because that heavily implies that you land a hit on a symbiote, which 9 times out of 10 you're not gonna do. So, like, literally in the final battle of the story mode, when I'm fighting Venom, I couldn't use one of Miles's things because literally you can't land a hit on Venom. So it's just like they could have planned that out a little bit better, but otherwise I don't have an issue with it. It's cool. Next up, the post-credit scene. Actually, next up is the cinematics, as you've seen in the video. Mwah. It's such a gorgeous game. Good God, it's a gorgeous game. But the post-credit scene. So the post-credit scene gave us a lot. We're definitely getting Green Goblin in the future, which I think it's funny that, you know, this whole thing is kickstarting the Green Goblin for Norman, and he's like, I hate Spider-Man, I hate the Spider-Man. When Norman, you really are the reason that this all happened. And I think this is all a way for him to just skirt accountability and really take a look at himself and, you know, look at the role that he played, because you initiated the symbiotic contact between, you know, Harry and the symbiote. You brought the symbiote to him as a means to cure his sickness. Like, yes, you know, the whole thing happened with Peter and it went out of control, but it started with you, buddy. And then he saved your son's life, more so Miles. Like, all right, buddy, all right. And then what's it called? We have Green Goblin on the way. Something with Doc Ock. I don't know what's going on with that. I thought it was hilarious that Norman asked him for the identities of both Spider-Man, which how would Doc Ock know about Miles? But whatever. I think it's so hilarious that he asked Doc Ock of all people when, again, Norman is the catalyst for all of these events. Like, you literally are the reason Doc Ock went on the rampage that he did, because he hated your guts, dude. You know, Doc Ock was like, I'm not gonna help you. Hello? And then he was like, he's writing the final chapter. I don't know what that means. So that's gonna go into the third game, I guess. But then we have another scene where Miles is having a dinner. You know, him and Haley kiss. I don't really care about that. The mom opens the door, and it's this guy that she's been dating, right? He's like, hi, my name's Albert. And then I was like, Albert. I think he said his full name, Albert Moon. I was like, that sounds really familiar. And then he was like, this is my daughter, Cindy. I said, is that Silk? Is that Silk? And I confirmed. I looked it up to make sure. And it was Silk. I was like, whoa. So we're going to have 3 Spider-Men, possibly in Spider-Man 3. I don't know how that's going to work. I want to finish the Spider-Bots quest in particular, because I feel like somehow Cindy is tied to that. Because it feels like it's tapping into like a multiverse. I don't know. There's something about that side quest, but I have to finish it. Last thing, or last 2 things, the combat. Of course, I love the combat. I feel like it's a lot smoother than the first game. Not to say it wasn't smooth in the first game, but like as far as initiating combos, I feel like it's a 1-2. You're doing it. You could easily go back and forth, never touching the ground or never really getting hit if you play it right. And then of course the swinging. Excuse me. The swinging is great. Love. The web wings were a surprise. I didn't think we would have that, so they essentially glide all over the city whenever they want, which really helps when you have to travel far distances and you go on those like wind paths and you're just like I personally like the web wings quite a bit. Okay, I think that's it. These are just like questions, but not important. The story mode overall, I think not a lot of what happened within the Kraven arc and the symbiote arc, they don't mean anything. Like, we leave off with just Spider-Man doing what he was doing beforehand, Miles doing what he's doing beforehand. He just has a little more responsibility. Like, you know, the symbiote arc is kind of rendered meaningless for almost all parties involved. You know, Harry's in a coma, so there's no need to really reflect on anything that happened. We're not going to get that to the next game. I already spoke about Peter, I already spoke about Miles, and I already spoke about MJ. Like, but none of it was substantial enough to where it changed the course of the game. Same with Kraven. he went on this whole rampage, and it culminates in a side quest where his family's basically like, okay, we want to do the same thing, and then his daughter basically kills off his entire family and is like, I'm coming for you, but it doesn't mean anything. We're not going to see that because Craven's dead and she's not going to fight Peter. So it just, the side quests could use some work. I feel like we're leading up to things that could be interesting, but they're not going anywhere. Let's talk about Yuri / Wraith. Her suit, first off, it's a no for me. And that's one of the other suits. Peter has a suit basically based on Wraith's costume in this game, and it's ugly as hell.
This is such an ugly suit. Like, who looked at Wraith's design in the Insomniac-verse and said, yeah, we're going to copy and paste that onto Spider-Man? It's bad enough they basically took that from Miles Morales' own game, in which the Tinkerer and her goons were pretty much dressed exactly like this with this color scheme, to the point where I thought Wraith was one of them. How is it? Like, Wraith in the comics, I looked her up. Her costume is so much more interesting than this.
The fact that, you brought Yuri back, which I was excited to see her. This was, a follow-up, build-up from the first game. She becomes a vigilante. I need to know how much time has passed, because she seems to have a good grip on what she's doing despite everything. So that's fine. You bring her back, and it doesn't really amount to anything. She just kind of fights some cultists. She almost takes it too far. Spider-Man stops her. They go after the main guy. It's wrapped up really quickly. They go after the main guy. There's a hint to Carnage at the end. He has this vial of symbiote. I don't know where the hell it came from. How are there vials of symbiote just roaming around New York City? Whatever. He has one, and basically it's a hint to Carnage. But again, like Wraith herself, she needed more. I don't think we spent enough time with her and what she's been doing since the events of the first game. All it amounts in is now cultists popping up around the city. Like it's not as fruitful as the DLC from the first game. So yeah, we really could have done without her in this game, honestly. Let's see. She's not in a side quest, but my girl Black Cat made a short appearance. Very short. Very, very short. I don't have a problem with that. What else? I'm trying to think. What are the other side quests that I've done? Oh yeah, Sandman. One of my favorite parts of the game is the first fight. I think as far as co-op goes between Miles and Peter, it was done the best with this fight. And, you actually play this fight mostly through quick time events, but I like the cinematics. I'm not going to hold you. I felt like that was the most entertaining fight.
That's disgusting. Gang beat down, gang, 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 gang. Gang.
And oh my god, I almost forgot to talk about the boss fights. I'll talk about that in a second. But the side quest with Sandman and his memories, that also doesn't really lead to something super interesting. Like, his mind is broken, and that in itself, that's intriguing. I could follow that. But all the while, it just leads back to his kid. So we're led to believe his kid was kidnapped. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get to this point. We're going to rescue her kid from someone. Maybe it's someone big, maybe small. No, her kid is his kid is at home the entire time. So all it amounts to is just bringing her this statue of, that her dad made. That's it. I'm just like, we could have gotten more. But okay, fine. Whatever. But since we're talking about Sandman and boss fights, the most frustrating aspect of this entire game that it almost made me want to quit, as I mentioned earlier, the boss fights. The boss fights. I could not deal. Why in God's name do you have to fight a boss 4 times in a row? 3 to 4 times in a row. Is there no other way for you to progress the story than to have us fight them once, then there's a little transition, you fight them again, another transition, you fight them again, another transition, you fight them again. All the while, it's corny ass dialogue, right? Whether it be Peter or Miles, especially during the symbiote arc, because it's the same variation of, it's not you, it's the symbiote, please, I can help you. Oh my God. When I tell you, it was so frustrating. And then, you know, you have to parry a lot of the stuff. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not the best at parrying. So I was jumping around and everything like that. But sometimes the button wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. The timing was off, and then you die and you have to start all over again. I couldn't believe they designed the boss fights like this. Like, why is it? It would be one thing if there were space in between the amount of times we have to fight them. Like, maybe there was something else to do. No, it's like back to back to back to back. It is so monotonous so quickly, and you do it throughout the entire story mode. I'm like, are you serious? Are you absolutely joking? That's why the Sandman fight is the best for me. You fight the man once, you fight him across the city, and his battle, the remnants of it, are throughout the city with the side quests and just visually. Like, it is, I just cannot believe that they decided to do it like this. Super aggravating. The Negative Man fight, I wanted to quit because I died after I fought him 3 times, right? And I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna go back to the 3rd round. No, I don't know why, but with Negative Man specifically, when I died, I went back to the 2nd round. So I had to fight him again, and then beat him again, and then again. I had to hear all that dialogue again and again. When I tell you, like, it, oh, I couldn't believe it. Oh, God. Let me see, what else was there? I'm trying to think. With what I've done so far, I feel like that's kind of it for me. I can't think of anything else. Like, the other side quests that I'm doing, I did this one where Peter's on a bicycle. Like,
bruh, how many times am I gonna ride a bike? Like, for real. I've never ridden a bike so many times in a Spider-Man game. Never in my life. This is insane. Oh my God. And then I get stuck.
You know, they had certain like flashback scenes or missions throughout the story mode and the side quests. Some of them were cool, like when you did the quest of his first cover story. I thought that was great. I love that. Kind of taking it back. But during the story mode, when you were like young Peter and you were breaking into your high school, like, are you for real? Like, why are we doing this? It's just some of the stuff felt like it was there to pad out the runtime. And it, you know, it's bad enough when you get to the end. It plays out exactly like the first game. You're swinging around New York City, an infested New York City. You know, the last game, it was the shit with Doc Ock and the, what is it, Silver Sable's men, right? This game, it's the symbiotes all over the city. You got red dots all over your map, right? And then you go to the final boss and it's a whole thing. It just played out like the first game. It was completely not creative, for lack of a better term. So, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. There's this other side quest where I'm like doing environmental stuff, and I hope it leads to something more substantial than what we're dealing with right now, because like, if he can get a suit, like Peter in particular, because he's the one doing these missions, if he can like get a suit, that'd be great. But otherwise, I don't know, they're just not the most enticing missions to do. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Miles, I haven't done any like super personal stuff with him yet. I haven't finished the Prowler stashes because I couldn't really be bothered right now. But I think that's it, guys. This was a long video. If you stuck with me all the way, thank you so much. I'm excited to be back a little bit. I'm probably going to do a live stream at some point. I'm not going to guarantee a date or a time because we already know at this point, you know, the way I work. Woo! So I am going to do a live stream at some point, so that way we can just do a full catch up and talk about all the casting news and trailers that came out, because I do have some slight opinions on those, but I just don't really want to dedicate a video to them, as I stated. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Spider-Man 2. If you played the game, what do you think? If not, what is your opinion on the Insomniac verse? If you don't have an opinion on that, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
I did it. Yes. Story mode. Done. Fuck all of y'all. I did it. 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 It's done. It's done. It's done. Oh. Dun 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 dun. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.